On 19th of September 1997, a HST-125 was returning from Swansea towards London Paddington. The train consisted by a Class 43, 8 Mark III coaches, and another Class 43. Meanwhile, a Class 59 diesel locomotive was travelling to, to deliver some cars. As the Class 59 approaches Southall Station, the driver saw a HST moving in a funny angle and realized it was on the upper line in front of him. The driver tries to get out of the way of the high-speed train, but it was far too late. The high-speed train crashes into the cars of the Class 59.
Coach H collided with a hopper. The HST power car severed the brake pipes of the freight train, causing the stranded rear hopper wagons to stop immediately. A coupling from one of the hoppers was then severed by the derailed and damaged front power car as it passed by, causing debris to land on the track. 4 seconds into the accident, with the HST still traveling at 60 miles per hour, 97 kilometers per hour, Coach H collided with the severed coupling from the freight train, and began to topple away from the freight train onto its left side. It slid on its side for a further 4 seconds. 2 people died in this carriage, falling from the destroyed coach windows and then crushed under the sliding Coach H 8 seconds into the accident, with both the forward HST power car and Coach H clear forward of the scene. Coach G, the second coach in the HST formation, hit the now stationary rear of the freight train. The freight wagons were driven back and jackknifed. Both Coach G and the struck hopper wagon lifted into the air. The hopper wagon was restrained in its movement, and collided and jammed up against the nearby overhead line stanchions. The front of Coach G was flattened as it slid under the hopper. 10 seconds into the accident, the rear of the HST, led by Coach F, collided with the now stationary Coach G. The energy release of the still moving rear of the HST bent the structure of Coach G into a distinct half curve at its midpoint. 5 people died in Coach G, which was almost completely destroyed. The rear of the HST, led by Coach F, collided with the stationary rear of the freight train. Coach F was left derailed. 7 passengers died, 6 at the scene and 1 in hospital.
But why did this accident happen?
Following this accident and the Ladbroke Grove rail crash, First Great Western, as GWT had become, required all its trains to have ATP switched on. If the equipment is faulty, the train is taken out of service. It emerged after the incident that the reset switch of the warning system had contamination on its electrical contact surfaces, which rendered its performance intermittent, hence its disabling at Oxford the day before the crash. 1. The HST driver and operator were charged with manslaughter, but the charges were later dropped. 3. GWT was fined £1.5 million for not having a system to ensure HSTs were not operated for long journeys with oars inoperative. 4. View of the aftermath from a passing train. The action of the signaller in stopping a high-speed passenger train to allow a slow freight train to cross in front of it has been criticized. However, this is standard procedure when regulating trains to minimize overall delay. There was no reason for the signaller to expect that the HST driver would not stop at the red signal protecting the crossover. At the time, there was no requirement for the signaller to have been informed that the HST was in service with its oars isolated. The Rail Safety and Standards Board rulebook was revised to cover this. Driver, if you become aware that the oars has become defective when it is required to be in operation, you must tell the signaller. 5. A public inquiry into the incident was formally opened on the 24th of February 1998, with Professor Jonoff appointed to chair by the Health and Safety Commission with the consent of the Secretary of State for Environment, Transport and the Regions. The report was published on the 24th of February 2000 with 93 recommendations to improve rail safety. 6. The key point identified in the report was that drivers had become increasingly reliant on oars with single manning and high speeds, and that it was no longer acceptable to run trains at full speed if the equipment was inoperative. The rulebook was changed, so that if oars is isolated, the train may only run at high speed with a competent person accompanying the driver in the cab. 5. This person must have full knowledge of the route and know how to stop the train. If a competent person is provided, proceed at normal permissible speed to the location where the train can be dealt with. During poor visibility, the train speed must not exceed 40 miles per hour, 65 kilometers per hour, or, if a competent person is not provided, proceed at a speed not exceeding 40 miles per hour, 65 kilometers per hour, or any lower permissible speed that may apply, to the location where a competent person is available, or to the location where the train can be dealt with. 5. Among survivors in the 2 most severely stricken coaches in front of the buffet car were Richard George, then managing director of GWT, who played a valuable role in establishing calm, and 4 injured members of staff in the buffet car, who quickly organized help for passengers. 1. After the completion of the inquiry, Power Car 43173, which had sustained heavy damage in the collision, was scrapped at a remote site, Modshubrines. As of 2021, Power Car 43163, which sustained minor damage in the accident, is in service with Abellio ScotRail, having been transferred to the fleet in 2018 among other HSTs.
It's been 27 years since the disaster, and hopefully we'll never see an accident ever again.